Welcome to What We Watch When We Drink, a Booze Dancing Entertainment Network podcast featuring lively discussions about movies, TV shows, and anything else that we're watching while we drink our favorite boozy beverages. If you enjoy this show, please subscribe on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Google, Audible, and anywhere else you get your podcasts. You can also find us on boozdancing.com, and if you have any questions, comments, show or drink suggestions, email us at boozdancing@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you.
Hey, we are live. It's Booze Dancing Entertainment Network. We are live again for another live stream / podcast. Welcome to the What We Watch When We Drink podcast live stream extravaganza. We are live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Not Twitter. What else? Anybody else?
That was it. Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube.
Instagram and YouTube. Okay.
Isn't there that enough?
We got the whole. It's probably too much. It really is. This is episode 56, I believe. 56. And we're gonna call this the bitters episode because we, as a trio, are extremely bitter.
Yes.
I don't think people know that going way back.
And if you want to feel fancy, you could say we're Amaro.
We are Amaro, yes. We are Amaro-y bitter for sure. And two, our special guest is Gene Cooper from McMann Tate Cocktail, who specializes in cocktail-related ingredients, including bitters. See the connection? Pretty good, huh? Yeah.
Not bad.
Gene, welcome.
Thanks. Yeah, I was excited to be part of the live stream. It was great.
So we are on this live stream, and we want to let everyone know to drop their comments and questions in the comment section wherever they're watching, and we'll be sure to probably answer them the best we can. Don't forget to check out those great spirit and beer reviews and cocktail reviews, whiskey reviews at the murder table on boozdancing.com. Ange and Mike do that all the time, and gosh, there's always something new over there. So go hop on there and check out the latest and greatest at the murder table. Okay. I'm not even sure how Gene got a hold of you, Ange, but we're happy he did. Because we like cocktails. And
Gene was kind enough to send us 4 samples for bitters varieties, right. And Mike and I decided to do a little research one night, created a few cocktails, and then we went back and filmed them all.
That's awesome.
So that's 4 bitters, 4 cocktails.
That's right. So Gene, let's start. We'll start at the beginning. How did you get into this crazy little business of making cocktail ingredients? What's your background?
Well, I'm going to go back in time a little bit. So I grew up in the 60s, and I spent a lot of time watching TV. And one of my favorite shows happened to be Bewitched. It was a 30-minute, half-hour sitcom on ABC.
I hear the sound. I hear the theme song right now.
Most people our age do. The other people no idea what you're talking about. And the premise of the show was a married couple with Samantha Stevens and her husband Darren. And Samantha always got into trouble by casting spells and making potions. And I wasn't really interested in that part. I was interested in what Darren did for a living. He worked for an advertising agency. And I thought that was pretty cool. It's like, wow, you can create these little stories and sell stuff. And that stuck in my head to a point where I got out of college. I spent the last 35 years working in advertising. And I worked for some of the big global agencies, some of the top brands, and a lot of them were in the liquor category. And that's how I got kind of turned on to cocktails and, the different ingredients and spirits. But that's not where my real interest in making cocktails came to be. So when I was in high school, I'm sure everybody's seen the movie The Godfather. And
absolutely.
Maybe once or twice.
Remember the wedding scene? Don Corleone, his 2 granddaughters were, the actors were about 8 years old. And the actors' names were Teresa and it was Virginia Buffummo. Well, their father, Andy, owned a half of the Thunderbird Hotel in South Manahawkin, New Jersey. My best friend in high school's dad owned the other half. So for 4 summers during high school, my friend and I, we were pool boys at the hotel. And we learned about cocktails by hanging out at the tiki bar. And it wasn't so much that we were drinking, we were helping the bartenders close the bar, open it up. We were bar backs, we were doing inventory for them and flirting with, the housekeeping staff, in between. And the last summer, my friends—
Isn't that an HR violation?
No.
There was no HR then. HR wasn't a thing.
And the last summer, my friend's dad said, well, we sold the property. Everything needs to go. So take whatever you want. He gave us the key to the liquor room. And my friend and I left our house in Jersey, going down to the shore at 5 o'clock in the morning, loaded up my mom's Toyota station wagon with not just boxes of liquor, but we had bar stools and blenders and barware.
Wow.
It was crazy. And then the week later, the two of us are off to college. So what did we do? I don't know about Mike, but I set up a bar in my dorm room, and we were the most popular dorm room for the first 8 semesters. And that's where I learned how to bartend. And that's how I learned about all the ingredients and really what works and what doesn't work. So that was kind of like my whole interest, in the last, 20, 30 years. COVID hits, I start making syrups and I start making bitters and shrubs. And my friends say, why don't you start your own business? Well, I ran my own ad agency for about 12 years. So I had that entrepreneurial bug. And I decided to, hey, give it another shot, and no pun intended. And I got the formulas dialed in. I got them approved by the TTB. So our bitters are actually classified as a food extract. So we could sell them, in the supermarket if we get to that point. We launched the brand this past July, and the name of the company is McMann Tate. And that was the name of the ad agency that Darren Stevens worked for. So I'd like to say everything came full circle for me. It's been kind of an interesting trip when I start to look back at my, my personal resume.
That's awesome.
We've had a lot of guests on this show. We've had many guests, right, guys? That might be the best backstory we've ever heard. That is so freaking great. That is from 1970s TV or late 60s TV to today. That's incredible. That's great. So you're out of the ad business. You're done.
No, I'm actually in corporate marketing, consumer marketing. I work for one of the big telecommunication companies. So if you can hear me now, you can figure it out.
So this is a side project that's getting bigger than you thought it might get big.
It actually is. And one thing I learned having run my ad agency was that you need to be able to pivot quickly. And again, we launched the brand in July. I've already made a couple of pivots. So flexible, and I think you really need to be. So I learned a lot. I think like running your own business, it's like having your MBA. You just learn what to do on the fly. So it's growing, I like to say it's you're filling up a swimming pool with a cup. So I'm making progress, but it's going to take a while, but that's okay. That's okay. I'm really enjoying the people I'm meeting, new relationships, and I love what I'm doing. So it's cool as a side gig for the moment.
Okay. So let's get into some details here. So are you making the bitters, producing the products?
Yep.
At home?
No.
How are you doing it? Well, because we actually know some people that were doing some stuff at home. I'm thinking of Geyser Spirits up in Northern California.
Yep.
Before they got large enough, they were working in their kitchen. So where are you in that?
Yeah, I do everything by the book. I'm really linear, and from past experience, you really need to follow, especially when you're dealing with alcohol, even though it's a food product. We have there's 3 of us in total. We have someone who handles all our graphic design, and we have someone who manages our really going to call it food production, because that's what it is. We have a commercial kitchen in Union City, New Jersey. So we rent out the space, and everything is made there. And then everything has to be bottled there. So the only thing we end up bringing back to the house is, completely done bottles that are sealed, and then we just label them. Because we have, our business license, and we have food safety certificates. Everything is really done by the book, because I know from past experience, which is why it takes a little bit longer to, get, stuff to market.
Yeah.
So coming up with flavors and ideas of products to sell, where is that? Just you've seen similar products before like this. Obviously, some of these bitters there's a lot of bitters out there on the marketplace. Yeah. How did you come up with the choices that you chose? You have quite a few on your website and some other things as well. So where did you Where did the
it's a really
research
good
come from?
question. Yeah, it's a really good question. Did a lot of research, did a couple focus groups among friends, even on Reddit, we're part of that group. And we asked, if you had to stock your bar with 5 flavors, what would they be? Not brands, what flavors would they be? And we ended up with from aromatic to cherry to citrus, really the basic flavors that work well with every base spirit. Because I know the consumption rate of a bottle of bitters, it could last you 3, 5, 6 years. So I know it's not going to be many repeat purchases on the same flavor. So that's why we went wide with the product line. And again, we want to make sure they could be used with all base spirits, classic cocktails, as well as modern cocktails that you can really use with a wide range. I mean, there's a lot of great brands out there, and some of the flavors or so, like pork barbecue, which is great, but how many times are you going to use it, and how many cocktails would it apply to?
Right.
So that was our thought process, to go wide, with the line.
Okay. We've talked a little bit about flavor. Why don't we talk about drinking? Because that's what we do best. Our assignment was to make a cocktail using what the very nice gifts you sent us of bitters. So why don't we go around the room? We'll start with Mike and see what you came up with, either from Gene's website or your own brain, and how you did it.
I made an old fashioned, just a run of the mill old fashioned, with the wildly aromatic bitters and Brothers Bond bourbon, and it's awfully good. And then I went and I took some. I was trying to figure out what to do with the coffee bitters. So
hold on. Let's wait, Mike. Let's stay with one. We'll come back to the second one.
Okay.
You jumped ahead, man. You're jumping ahead.
I didn't know. You said, what did I do? I was telling you what I did.
I said one.
Please.
I
said
okay.
One, but there are two.
Ange, what'd you do?
Well, I was going to do one of the cocktails from the site, and I thought I had some Campari, and I don't. So I couldn't make it. So I went back to the old Linus and Lucy from our dear friend Andre's book, the Booze and Vinyl Christmas. But I kicked it up a little bit. So I used the Hein Rare Cognac, 1 ounce. I used 1 ounce of the Lazzaroni Amaretto. But instead of coffee, I used the Char and Stave Classic Coffee Liqueur that Mike and I reviewed a couple weeks ago, which I really liked. And then 5 drops of morning coffee bitters.
Well, there you go.
So
very nice. Gene, did you make a cocktail as well, or?
I did, and of course I had to go with the retro, glassware.
Nice. I love it.
Stay on brand.
Love it.
And staying with, I guess, a nod to Steve Buscemi in the movie we're going to talk about, the lead character Tommy. I made the Charming Man. So that's one of the recipes on our site. It's mezcal. It's amaro. It's a sfumato amaro, which is more leans towards the bitter side. And then sherry. I had to think I ended up using a Lustau sherry. So it's a little bit, good for the fall. It's got some dark notes to it, which is not too bad.
Great.
Sounds delicious. Sounds good.
I too made an old fashioned, but I made a rum old fashioned with Single Cask Nation's 12-year-old Angostura rum from Trinidad. I also used the wildly aromatic bitters, and I used maple syrup for my sweetness, and it's really delightful. I didn't know how much. I have a question for you. So when we see recipes about a couple of dashes of we're used to like the Angostura bitters dash. What is a dash when you're using a dropper?
Yeah, another really great question. I think I have it on our FAQs on our site too. A dash would be half of that dropper bottle, half of the dropper, the glass pipette. So 1 dash would be half of that. And I think it equates to like 10 drops would be a dash.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Interesting.
That's good.
So a dash is an actual measurement?
Yeah, people have actually gone and measured it, and I forget what the actual mathematic equation is to it, but they say 10 drops is a dash, and if you use half of the dropper bottle, the pipette, it should be 10 drops worth.
I probably could have used a little bit more then because I wasn't sure. So very good though. I enjoy it. So first, what we always start off with is a little cheers to everybody.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming in.
Oh,
and we're gonna enjoy our cocktails. So we'll take a pause here on the company and Gene, and we'll mention what we're going to talk about movie wise. I'm not sure who came up with the movie. Was that Gene?
I think I was just throwing out anything that like takes place in a bar. So I was kind of curious about this one. Mike has already been a little salty this afternoon.
He's
we'll get
a
into
salty
it.
guy.
He's
Salty and bitter.
Uh-huh.
So the movie, I can't remember what year, 1996, I believe.
1996.
Trees Lounge. And Ange, why don't you probably have a little bio on it, a little fact sheet on it?
Yep, Trees Lounge. Release date October 11th, 1996. Budget $1.3 million. Let's see. Opening weekend, a whopping $39.8 thousand.
Wow.
And the gross box office $749,700. The ratings, IMDb 7.1 out of 10, Rotten Tomatoes 81%. And this is directed and written by Steve Buscemi. And the tagline, well, the official tagline, a story about one man's search, ... for who knows what. And then a user on IMDb gave a little bit of a more expanded synopsis. Things aren't going so well for Tommy Basilio. He lost his job because he borrowed money from the register. His girlfriend left him for his boss and is now pregnant. And he can't find work because of the incident. His life revolves around the Trees Lounge, a neighborhood bar over which he lives, full of the colorful eccentrics one finds in such places, like the estranged husband or the old boozer drinking himself to death. He drunkenly wanders through his life, still in love with his ex, desperate for some sort of meaning beyond the bar, and some sort of meaning to his life. That's by Gary Dickerson. Slug at mail.utexas.edu.
Good synopsis. 3.5 stars from Roger Ebert, who really liked it. Wow, there's a lot here to peel away.
Well, the cast alone is just insane.
We normally don't start with the cast when we talk about a movie or a show, but this one's almost impossible not to talk about the cast because it's so wide and vibrant and long of people that this is what, 96, that's almost 28 years ago. And all these people went on to something, not all, many went on to far greater heights after this movie, right?
Mm-hmm. Nope, never heard of any of them.
Who do we start with? We should start with Buscemi. Maybe since he's the star. So where's Buscemi in his career in 96?
I think he's seriously on the what's the word? The come up.
Starting,
he's kind of booming. Rise. He's in all these indie films. He's like an indie king, as far as I'm concerned. He's in Reservoir Dogs. He's got a bit part in Pulp Fiction. He's in a bunch of other little independent movies, and he got a lot of awards for him too. So he started with the Coen Brothers movies.
And at Wikipedia, they refer to this period of time as his rise to prominence.
Interesting.
That's kind of what's going on.
I'm looking at everything before 96. Sleepwalk, Parting Glances, Small Roles,
very small.
Daddy Goodnight, Heart of Midnight, Slaves of New York, King of New York, Miller's Crossing in 1990, Barton Fink in 91, Billy Bathgate, Reservoir Dogs in 92, Hudsucker Proxy in 94, Airheads, Pulp Fiction also in 94, Billy Madison in 95, Desperado in 95.
He gets himself in with the right people. He becomes the Usual Suspects kind of guy. Like he's part of that acting theater. He's
right.
He's in with Tarantino. He's in with Adam Sandler. He's
in with the Coen Brothers. I mean, it's not
Coen Brothers. He's in with everybody.
No, well, he's an interesting guy because he looks like a character actor, yet he can hold a movie by himself. He doesn't get a lot of chances in his career, but he definitely could. And he's funny. He was hilarious on Curb this year, and he can play dark roles like this. He's pretty versatile. He can do a lot of things. And this is his first foray into directing, I believe, right?
I think so.
Yes.
Yeah. Any favorite roles of his, Gene, that you like in his career besides this?
I actually liked him when he got into The Sopranos, and there's a connection there.
There is
a little bit of research here. So David Chase had seen the movie, and
Right.
he connected with the casting director for this film. And if you take a look at the cast in this, even the secondary and tertiary players, a handful of them ended up in The Sopranos.
Yep.
Yeah.
And also there was a little bit, one of the other characters, it was a 17-year-old Denise that Tommy quasi dates. They said that character was almost the basis for Meadow for The Sopranos.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's some connections there that came after the movie was out because of David Chase working with the casting directors. But I like Buscemi in The Sopranos. Also, when he was Boardwalk Empire. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yep.
I did. Mike can't get past it. Mike can't
I
get
love
past
it.
it.
Really?
Loved it.
Yeah.
Buscemi's nude scene scarred him for life.
First episode, man. Lead with what you want to see, not what you don't.
That's a good point. I forgot about that. I may have wiped it out of my memory.
That's funny.
Boardwalk Empire should be retitled as Buscemi's ass. It's just
Well, and for me, he was on that one stretch where, even if it was like a mediocre movie, like Con Air, Armageddon, he saved the day in a couple movies. More than a couple.
He's great in both of those movies.
He is. He's tremendous in both.
Yeah.
Don't forget Fargo. I mean, he is classic in
He's
Fargo.
great in Fargo. Yeah.
My God,
Until he winds up in the chipper.
Wow, no good deed.
Has anyone seen the Sopranos doc series, whatever it is on?
No, I haven't
it's
seen
on
it.
Max. I saw the first episode, and I didn't know this Trees Lounge connection when I saw the first episode, but it didn't come up. I'm wondering if keep watching it because Chase is in. It's basically a Chase documentary.
Yeah.
About him.
think it was so
It's about him.
Yeah,
He doesn't really want it to be about him, but apparently it's about him a lot.
Yeah, and I think the connection with Trees Lounge, I think it was just so subtle. Like you don't really talk about connected with the casting director, and that's why because the characters they got, Buscemi came on Sopranos later on in this, seasons later. But Artie Bucco was in Trees Lounge, and so there's some of these secondary
and Christopher, Carmela's mother.
Yes.
Oh yeah, well, Mike Imperioli was it? Yeah.
The girlfriend is Elizabeth Bracco, and Lorraine Bracco is
that her sister?
Yeah, it's her sister.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was wondering about that.
And even Daniel Baldwin was in it. He played Sally Boy on The Sopranos.
Oh yeah.
Is he the crazy Baldwin? Well, we got Chloe, of course, who is at the time. Do we know how old she is in this movie?
In the movie,
young,
she was the character was 17. I don't know what her age was.
She's 23, I think. That's what she's
23. And before this thing, she's probably not done very much, I would guess. She was I think she did a little modeling before.
He hadn't worked with her before. I think Buscemi said he'd worked with a couple of actors in the past, but Chloe was new, a new relationship, working wise.
Yeah, I'm looking at her filmography. This is her second thing that she did.
What was the
Something
first one?
called Kids in '95.
Oh, yeah, Kids is a tough one.
And then after that, she moves on to Palmetto, Boys Don't Cry, American Psycho. She's got this kind of she's got a crazy career. And kind of coming into her own in her middle years here.
Yeah.
Who else do we have?
There's a lot of people. There's just a lot.
I know. I'm just going down the list on.
Anthony LaPaglia.
Oh my God,
Right?
he's great. I don't think he's ever had the big career that maybe people thought he was going to have.
He's Australian, right?
Yeah. Isn't that weird?
Yeah, because he's good. I mean, I would never guess.
No, yeah, he's and I think he's married to someone famous, isn't he? Maybe
I have
not.
no idea. Probably, aren't they all?
It's
Hollywood.
Elizabeth Bracco, Carol Kane,
Right.
who is 72 now. That's incredible.
Really?
She's
LaPaglia is 65. I mean, none of these people are young.
No.
Neither are we.
And LaPaglia's got a Tony Award and an Emmy Award.
Really?
Wow.
While he's had a relatively what seems to be like a kind of a character actor small career, he's hit some numbers.
He's been working for a long time. I mean, that says a lot.
Yep.
Mimi Rogers.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I was
Mrs.
surprised to see her. I
Mrs.
didn't realize she
Cruise,
was in
yeah.
it.
The first Mrs. Tom Cruise.
The yeah, Debbie Mazur.
Yep.
Boy, who else?
Well, there's
we
a lot
have?
of connections to Goodfellas too.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, there's a
Right?
Goodfellas
Because you've
connection.
got the older woman that was at the end of the bar. Was she Carmela's wife in The Sopranos?
She's Carmela's
mom?
mother.
Carmela's
Carmela's
mom.
yeah.
Right. Well, she was Lorraine Bracco's mom in Goodfellas.
Yeah.
And then you've got Debbie Mazar was in it also, and Michael Imperioli, and who's the other guy?
Samuel L.
Right.
Jackson.
Samuel Jackson. What's his
That's
name?
crazy.
I can't think of his name now. Oh, Michael Corrigan.
Kevin Corrigan.
Kevin Corrigan.
Kevin Corrigan.
Kevin Corrigan's in it too because he was Ray Liotta's brother, right? In a wheelchair.
Yeah.
Darren. He keeps telling the stir the sauce at the end.
I think you're right.
It is a fairly. It's really crazy. I mean, and they're at that time most of these people are not big, and somehow they all are looking for jobs, right? And this is their first gig, and it turns out to be and they all become fairly ish famous, right?
Yeah. Gene, did you see? Did you watch The Wire?
I did.
D'Angelo Barksdale. He was with that guy. He was with Sam Jackson.
He's not quite. Is he 21? Is he 21? He's 22.
He might be
He's
20.
20. No, I'm saying in the movie. Are you 21? He's 22. Where's your ID? I don't.
So apparently there actually is a Trees Lounge.
Yes, well there was anyway.
Yeah. I think it's not there anymore. Within like Queens or in
I'm not sure.
Staten Island. I don't think it's there anymore. Or Long Island. I think it was supposed to take place in Valley Stream in Long Island.
Right. Well, they shot a lot in Valley Stream.
Yeah.
I think the shooting locations were Queens and Long Island.
Yeah.
So wherever they were in Queens, and I guess that Valley Stream in Long Island.
So let's talk a little bit about the story itself. Angie gave us a pretty good synopsis of it. Thoughts on the story, thoughts on where the characters are and where they go. Anyone have any? Mike, you don't have a love for it as a movie, but as the story itself.
It was very well acted and stylistically, it was very nice. But the story itself, good God, you want to just climb the bell tower and start shooting people when you're done. That was just terrible.
Oh, come on.
Well,
Maybe I saw a little too much of him and me. I'm not really sure. Me and him.
No, I mean, I went into it without any expectations, and I
Me
thought
too.
it was a genuine snapshot of people's lives. But Mike, to your point, there was no plot. It was really just a snapshot of
Slice of life.
Tommy, and everybody is experiencing the same thing. It's almost being just desperate, but they're all dealing with that desperateness in a different way.
And
I didn't leave it depressed or happy. I just left it like, I was looking into these people's lives.
just the day drinking, the usual suspects in the bar. You go down and it's the same 4 or 5 people
regulars.
in the bar all day long.
Don't be
Just the
judgy, Mike.
regulars.
Don't be judgy.
Yeah. What do we do?
Who's judgy? I'm Bill. I'm going to be sitting on the bar stool, motioning for the guy. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going.
I said to Ange separately that there's no likable characters. Not like you're not in love with any of these characters. There's no hero per se in this movie.
No.
Everyone's got issues, and it's slice of life issues. It's like this is any town America. And
well, you know what though? I think it's any town mid-Atlantic United States too. Like this could be Baltimore, it could be Philly, it could be New York, it could be Boston,
could be anywhere.
Could be Newark. It could be whatever. It's just a bunch of people that grew up together. They know each other really well. They're like, what do you want to call them? Codependent. They love to hate each other.
Sure.
And they love to love each other.
They all take care of each other in some weird way, and they're all everyone's kind of family-ish. There's all these weird. There's all this. You couldn't even keep track of all the connections family-wise in the plot. I
think kind of summed it up though. Remember when the Tommy's ex-girlfriend, who's with Anthony LaPaglia, is watching the old video?
Yeah.
When they're all having like a good time and having fun and Christmas Eve, and she's just getting, she's like, well, all right, they're all a bunch of, for lack of a better word, they're all a bunch of assholes, but you still love them. You know, you
She
can't help it.
she had a fondness for Tommy, but for whatever reason, that I think she thought she would be better off without him. That she would have some hope of having a better life. I think some of them just think that things will be better, but they're not really doing anything to make it better. They're just making other decisions that have their own issues and their own troubles.
Yeah, they put the fun in dysfunction.
It feels like I think I might have said this to you, Ange. It feels like one of those Cinemax HBO movies that you saw in the early 1990s, late 80s, late night. And it felt like, some director who's you never heard of, and then he becomes like Francis Ford Coppola. Yeah. It's like in one of his early movies, and he doesn't know what he's doing yet completely. And we didn't flesh out the story so much, but I got a lot of people, and it was cheap to make the movie, and
like Mean Streets. I mean, that's just him growing up with all his friends.
Sure.
And
let's put that on film and see what happens. And may not have a complete story, but in my head, it's kind of a story because it's about all these people who have issues, and alcohol is a driving force, and people make bad decisions in their lives, et cetera, and this is my movie, and somehow it gets made. It feels a few cuts above a student film, right? But not a student film. Buscemi probably had some really, when he was young, he probably has these great grand ideas for how he's going to be a great movie maker, and this was his first foray at it. So it is what it is. Well, it makes some of us bitter. So back to our bitter story. Just a reminder, this is the Booze Dancing Entertainment Network. This is what we watch when we drink, and we are talking to Gene Cooper from the McMann Tate Cocktail Company. I love that name. I could rap longingly about Elizabeth Montgomery and Company. So let's talk about some of the other items that you have on your list, on your menu of products.
Sure.
You make bitters, but you make some other things too.
Yeah, we also have a line of dried garnishes, and again, there's four different flavors from orange, grapefruit, lime, and lemon. Wanted to have additional, ingredients to help your cocktail make it taste a little bit better and to look a little bit better. What we liked about garnishes, you put one of these dried garnishes on, and you got a little drama to your cocktail. It's like really easy. You don't have to slice anything and worry about that. You just open up the container, drop one in. It's like, wow. It's a great way to impress your friends and your family, when you're serving a cocktail. We also have some rim salts, which are really geared towards the tequila cocktails. We've got a zesty lemon. There's a chili lime that gives you a nice little, little heat to your cocktail. And then we have pink Himalayan salt, again, to make your drinks taste a little bit better and to make them even look, like phenomenal. And that's what we really wanted to do, way to make your drinks look and taste better. That's kind of like, our unique selling proposition, if you have it that way.
Do you consider yourself a cocktail maven?
I think I've gotten close. I mean, I love going to some cocktail bars and talking to bartenders about different ingredients and different technique. Sometimes it gets me in trouble because I'll get disappointed when I get a cocktail that's not made properly. So I try to order off the menu, see how that goes, and then I'll ask for something that I may make for myself. I think I've gotten close.
I think it's like a cocktail pirate, Aaron.
What's that?
Based upon the first story,
yes.
where you just you raided the old bar and
I've gotten better since college. Yeah, I've gotten much better since college.
Okay, so this is college. You're at this this bar, right? You're working.
Yeah.
Could you imagine? I know the answer. What cocktails have become today. I mean, you're selling these things that I'm sure 30 years ago there was one bitter.
Yeah.
Right. One kind.
Mm-hmm.
One, and there was no dried fruit. That was sliced limes and lemons, maybe an orange. That was it. This cocktail universe has exploded.
Yeah,
I'm sure you're lucky. You're obviously benefiting from it, but you probably never even imagined that kind of from where you worked prior.
No. When I was closing and opening the bar at the hotel or making drinks in our dorm room, there was sour mix. That was the extent of the extra ingredients. any fresh lime juice or lemon juice. No one thought to do it. It all happened like in the early 2000s, where some of the bartenders went away from a sour mix out of the gun and the hose, and they started using fresh citrus, and it started from there. And then the bitters, people started to make their own, with the basic flavors. Because you like you said, there was Angostura.
Right.
And then brands have really started to launch for bitter mints. And Fee Brothers has been around for, I think, 100 years. They're glycerin based. They get a little bit different mouthfeel. Great product line. But, there were only a couple. And like everything else, the marketplace just exploded.
Yeah.
Even in the spirits category, tequila is the number one category now. It took over vodka. I mentioned when I was in the ad agency, one of the first clients I worked on was Absolute. And that's when Absolute took over the vodka marketplace with their whole ad campaign. But, that got dissolved pretty much over the last, 10 years with tequila. And you take a look at all the gins that are out there now. The marketplace has just exploded. But it's good because it gets other people into the marketplace. They're trying different things. So it gets us an opportunity to, let people explore different flavors and different ingredients, to try things. But there's also a lot more competition. So.
Pretend we don't know anything, which really isn't really, you don't have to pretend much. Teach us how bitters are made.
Sure. Well, the first thing to think about, because people ask, well, what are bitters? Think of them as if you're a cook, it's your salt and pepper. So bitters are going to help when you put them into a cocktail, they're going to give you more balance. They're going to pull your sour together with your spirit. So they're just going to give you an overall more balanced cocktail, and they'll add some flavor, to the overall cocktail itself. So bitters are basically taking a neutral grain spirit in most cases, like let's say a vodka, and you'll infuse it with different ingredients. And some of those ingredients will be bittering agents. They could be gentian root or angelica root, just to give it that bitter edge to it. Then you'll put in some other flavoring ingredients. It could be vanilla, citrus peels, or dried citrus. And you'll take all those ingredients and you'll let the spirit infuse. We typically do it for a 3-week period of time, depending on what we're making, because the ingredients infuse at different rates. So for argument's sake, we'll let them infuse for 3 weeks, and then you'll start to filter them out. We filter these out 3 times just to get as much clarity as we can without losing the flavor.
When you're infusing, it's a cold spirit. It's
correct.
Not heated up, right?
No.
Okay.
It's all cold filtering, and we have filters. I think we start with a 20 micron filter, and I'm getting technical here, and then it goes down to 5 to try to filter it again so it's clear or clearer, but you're not losing the flavor to it. So our morning coffee bitters, those are whole ground coffee beans that when you open up the bottle of those bitters, you could smell the coffee from across the room. So we over concentrate our bitters with these flavoring agents, being could be cranberry for our aromatic bitters, or we use cherries in our Bing cherry. We just oversaturate them, so you're going to get a lot of that aromatic and a lot of the flavor, but it's not going to overwhelm your cocktail. So that's kind of the process. It's really just infusing alcohol with other ingredients.
And so I'm looking at the aromatic one right now: cranberries, orange peel, vanilla, gentian.
Gentian, yeah, that's the bittering agent. That's a root.
That's bitter agent. Cherry or cherry bark, clove, cassia, cardamom, and anise. So there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, and the one thing someone asked me, a lot of bitter companies, they don't include all their ingredients on the bottle. We want to be transparent, so everything you see there is everything that goes in there. There's no sugar added. There are no additives. In the order you see the ingredients, that's the level that's put in there. I'm not going to give out what the actual ratios are, but those are all the ingredients. And it takes a while. It took us about 8 or 10 tries to get just that bottle of bitter where we wanted to flavor-wise, and also to get it approved by the TTB.
Right. Do you use are they fresh bitters, or are they all, are they like fresh herbs and roots and stuff, or are they all dried?
Depends on the bitter. For example, the Bing cherry bitters, what is fresh are the Bing cherries that we use. They're in their own syrup. Everything else is dried. And if you're using a fresh ingredient like Bing cherry, or if we're using in our Citrus Grove,
does that shorten the window of how long you have to master?
No, they're all shelf stable. We have, again, I go by the rules.
No, I mean in terms of the making process. If they're fresh, does it take less time to get the extract out, or?
It depends. So our Citrus Grove bitters, Yeah, they'll have fresh zest, lemon, lime, and grapefruit.
Yeah.
And we had to try those out. So that infusion time may be 2 weeks, because 3 weeks it became too acidic. So it was
Right.
really a lot of trial and error to get the timing down. And also it brings down the ABV if I use the fresh citrus. So none of our bitters are an ABV higher than 40 proof or 40%. That way it will get through your cocktail, but it's not going to overwhelm it. And anything with fresh ingredients is going to bring the ABV down a little bit because of the moisture content.
So that actually surprised me that the ABVs are this high. I guess I've never really looked at a bitters bottle before to see what the ABVs are. I'm a little surprised the ABVs are this high.
Some are
With
higher.
Wow.
I want to say maybe Bittermans, or I've seen some that are like 60 ABV.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
It can get a little overwhelming. Again, it depends on the manufacturer, and there's no knock against it. It's just, our approach is, make sure they can punch through the cocktail, not overwhelm it.
Huh. That's interesting. So I'm fascinated by the flavors that are in all of these. The coffee one, is it coffee one? No, the cocoa mole is cacao, ancho chili, cinnamon, oregano, angelica, burdock, allspice, and clove. They're really interesting combinations. How much experimenting did you have to do to come up with these?
I think on average it took us about 8 or 9 tries to get where we wanted, and then we had to get them approved. So yeah, it was a lot of trial and error. And the way that we started it, we made tinctures, and tinctures are basically a 1-ingredient infusion. So we'd make all the tinctures for each one of those ingredients, and then we'd start to blend it. And that way we could kind of dial one back, dial one, up a little bit. Otherwise, you're making a whole batch. You have to wait 2 or 3 weeks. You try, you don't like it. And that's why the process took us so long to kind of get this thing kicked off.
Right. Wow. And as you're trying them, as you're playing with the flavors, are you also making cocktails to see how they'll work with?
Yeah, we do 3. That's a really good question. There's 3 things we do to test them. One, we'll put them in our hand and rub them just to get the aromatic. Then we're going to test them in club soda just to see if they can stand up to,
that's interesting.
Carbonated beverage.
Well,
yeah. The flavor is.
One of the reviews
releases a little bit differently too.
I read one of the Oh, sorry. Yeah, I read one of the reviews of your product. It was Bourbon Guy.
Yeah.
And that's how he tried them all. He was using like seltzer or club soda to taste them and see how they were. So,
what was the third, Gene?
We actually make cocktails with them. So
actual cocktails.
Like classic cocktails. What we did, we'd make an old fashioned, for example, or maybe another cocktail that had another brand bitters in there, and then we'd try ours just to see what the difference was. Not that one's better than the other, but just to see what was different, so that we would change it as a variable, just to get an idea. Because I want to be able to tell people, like our Moroccan orange bitters, they stand up much better to a clear spirit than they do a brown spirit. Orange is a difficult bitter to really, to punch through some of those dark spirits. Some of the bartenders would take a Regan's orange bitter and combine it with a Fee Brothers bitter, and they would call it Fegans. That was like the classic years ago, because it would give you that mouthfeel with the glycerin from Fee's, but the Regans would punch through with the orange notes. It's a tough one to get through, because I had someone review it and said, well, it doesn't really stand up to, or a bourbon or a whiskey. But they tried it with, with the gin or with the tequila or vodka. It's like, wow, it's so much different, so much better. So that feedback, I'd like to tell to, our customers, so they know what they're getting.
Right. So the general flavors you came up with based on your experience, how did you, of course, the aromatic one, that's kind of very basic. But the other ones came up from
that was from doing some research and asking folks online. Again, if you were to stock your bar with 5 flavors of bitters, what would they be? And the common answers were cherry, chocolate, citrus, and orange. And that's how we came up with our 5. But I wanted to go a little bit deeper, so we cover every base spirit. So if you want to make a brandy cocktail, or one that's really working out well for us are our South Seas Tiki style bitters. That people that are into tiki culture,
I'm going to order that
use them with their tiki cocktails, and the same thing with the root beer. Root beer is like, that's kind of an off product, but it's pretty big in the tiki world. So those 2 are surprisingly, sometimes things kind of work out for you. And it's like, oh, I got some good feedback with those 2.
It's amazing. I know you're up against a lot of people making bitters right now.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's so many brands. It's incredible going to a nice liquor, spirits shop. How many brands, but how many flavors there are within the whole. Oh my God! Everyone's got a tiki one, but every tiki one's different. And jalapenos, so many pepper. Spirit bitters, crazy ones, ghost pepper, jalapeno, whatever.
Right.
It's insane.
Yeah, if we were, a couple years down the road, better established, then we would look into making some of those, off flavors, not off in a bad way. But right now, we just got to keep it broad enough so they'll appeal to everyone. Because I've had people purchase, like 6 bottles because they wanted to stock their whole bar. It's like, okay, that's all you need is the 6. I'm not saying don't get Angostura, don't get Peychaud's, get those, you'll need them. But the other flavors we have will round out the whole bar, and we wanted to make it a one-stop shop. You can go on our site and like, wow, I just stocked up the bitters, I got enough garnishes, and I got a jar of rim salt that if I'm going to make a margarita, I can kind of up my game a little bit.
What's your favorite cocktail?
Lately, I've been leaning towards the Boulevardier, but my favorite is the Sazerac with a rye cognac split base.
That's a good one too.
Yeah, but it's tough to get someone to make it well. Like I had somebody forget the absinthe. It's like, I'll just get an old fashioned. That's when he asked me if I become a maven. I don't know, but it's there's certain things like we all like. You like to have a cocktail the way you like.
Yep. We talk here a lot. I do that when we talk cocktails. Old fashioned's my go-to because it's such a classic drink, but it's also got that basic formula of spirit, sugar, and
yeah, it's versatile. You could do whatever you want with it.
Right. And that's what I've become. I've become an old-fashioned riffer, and taking those 3 basic categories and just changing all the ingredients up. I rarely even make a whiskey one anymore. I think it's just whatever spirit, some other spirit. And on that note, are we going with a second round of cocktails, gentlemen?
Yes.
Andrew, what you got? I got to get a block of ice. I'll be right back.
Speaking of old fashions, I did an old fashioned. I didn't have any. I didn't have any simple syrup, so I just used a sugar cube with a little bit of water, and then I added 5 drops of the wildly aromatic bitters and 2 ounces of Catoctin Creek Rabble Rouser rye, an orange peel, and a cherry, and a nice ice cube, a nice clear cube.
Is that Rabble Rouser? That's 50%.
Yes, it's the bottom and bond. Yeah,
that's right. It's the bottom one. Okay. Mike.
So I wanted to use the morning coffee. So I was trying to figure out what I could do with that. So I have a little bottle of Jack Daniel's Tennessee Tasters Oatmeal Stout Barreled Aged Bourbon.
Oh.
So I thought, oatmeal stout, coffee, that kind of goes. Then I was looking for something to throw in there, and I had from Art and the Age some fig cordial as my Amaro-esque sort of thing. So I did 1 ounce of the fig cordial, 2 ounces of the bourbon, and then I put in about 10 drops of the morning coffee bitters.
And you say you don't make cocktails.
And a sugar cube with a little bit of water.
Say
it is so good.
Really? That sounds great.
And I don't know if you can see. You can't see the color because of the background, but it's nice.
Pretty dark. Yeah.
Will you be putting that on your cocktail website, Mike?
It's nice. No, but I might be making another one when we're done here. We went to Art and Age. They've had us at a couple of events, and I wind up buying some of the different cordial flavors they have, and then I kind of put them on a shelf and I never think about them again. And when I was taking the Tennessee whiskey down, it was actually right behind it, and I went, "Oh, I have this fig cordial. Let me use that. Let me see what happens." And it really works well. The coffee and the fig are really, it's a great flavor.
Gene, do you have a second drink?
I do. What I ended up doing, I did a Buffalo Trace Old Fashioned, and I did a dash of the Bing Cherry Bitters and a dash of the Moroccan Orange.
Ooh,
nice.
So, yeah, it's interesting. And this came from one of the reviews that we had, and it's from Mike's Hard Review. Great guy. Just doing some really nice work. And he had split the bitters, and he said it just changed the whole complexity of the drink. And so I gave it a try. It's like, wow, you're right. Just some things we try to test, and the next thing you know, it's like someone came up with another idea. It's like, wow, it's pretty good. So that's what I opted for.
That's great. As the guys know, I am on been on a mezcal kick for a while now, and so I've got Fidencio Mezcal single cask from our friends at Single Cask Nation, Coco Mole bitters,
Coco
and
Mole.
Mole. And a friend of ours, mine and my wife's, is an engineer, aerospace engineer, but he's also got a side gig, and he's trying to make syrups. And he just brought us over a bottle of his orgeat, and so I have a orgeat as my
Nice.
sugar base in this, and got a nice almond flavor to it. So that's my little cocktail. It's basically an old fashioned. So.
Yeah.
Cheers, all. I'm curious about this mole.
I think you just keep making old fashions and calling them something else.
I do.
I'm slowly catching on.
It's just
Oh,
like
that's
your
really. Oh, that's interesting. I actually added a little bit more of the mole bitters as I was putting the ice in here, and it has a really interesting kick to it.
Yeah,
it's not super spicy, but it's got a little bit of a bite to it. I really like it.
Just enough, a little tingle.
Just enough.
Yeah,
the
Encho chili, it's not a super spicy chili, but it just gives it enough. And the cacao nibs that are in there, that's one of the bittering agents. You think about chocolate, it's just a very, very bitter chocolate. And yeah, it will give you like a little kick. And I think also the oregano, we found that's kind of interesting too. It depends on what you're mixing it with.
Yeah. It's interesting. This is like sitting around your coffee or your kitchen table and just playing with all these flavors. It must be a little mind-boggling and fun, and as well. I hope.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. My back room where I'm sitting, it's pretty much an apothecary. I've got my wife came in there. She's just looking for like the eye of Newt, and like no.
Oh,
Who
that's
takes
really
notes?
funny.
Do you have a note taker? Is there an official note taker?
You've got to really be documenting
Keep
this
a
stuff.
spreadsheet, I would assume.
Everything is done in Excel.
You got it.
Yeah.
Right, what are you going to do?
Yeah, because I have everything between all the levels of ingredients, and also what the yield is. So another thing, and you're talking about a little technical, when you filter it out, depends on what you're using. For example, the Bing Cherry Bitters, because I'm using so much, fresh, cherry, you end up losing a lot. So I may lose 50% of what I started with.
Wow.
So I had, it depends on what, like the coffee, not so much, but it depends on what you're filtering out. And you have to, from a business perspective, I look at the cost per ounce for everything,
Sure.
what our margins are, and that dictates sometimes a little bit of level of ingredients. I may kick, down the level of vanilla because it's so expensive, or cardamom. Just being, realistic from a business perspective, looking at all the numbers. But.
So what's a batch? How much is in a batch?
So we make small batches. Our small batches are 5 gallons.
5 gallons. Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Huh. And what's that yield you? How many bottles?
About 200.
200. Okay. Wow. Yeah. It's
5
interesting.
6, carry the 1.
So
What are they, 3-ounce bottles?
2.
2? Oh, yeah, that's about right. Yeah, okay. Makes sense.
who's buying? You sell online, of course. Are these getting into retail shops, or are you only online?
Well, I mentioned earlier about pivoting. So without a marketing budget per se, our original plan, you put everything on paper and see if it plays out, was to go directly to consumer. So we've got a handful of sales. We're trying to build up our social media following. It takes time. Then I started reaching out to some of the online cocktail ingredient stores, and we've got a couple of partners that we're working with now. And what's interesting, that with the non-alcoholic category taking off, I'm getting traction with our garnishes and our rim salts for the non-alcoholic supplier or retailers that are carrying non-alcoholic tequila and other,
interesting.
So You're selling those as, hey, if you're going to buy, NA tequila, here's some rim salt that will really, up your cocktail game. So that's a little niche that I didn't even think about until we started doing this. I just started conversations with some distributors in the South. I've got one in Louisiana that we're looking. So I was thinking, year 2 and a half, but market changes or dictates what you need to do. So now we're looking to work with distributors. So we'll see how it goes.
So talk about the salts for a minute, because that's a really interesting that's another little niche, right?
Right.
How did you find these salts? How did you I'm guessing you got many different samples of them from wherever, and and then somehow narrowed it down to the 3 or 4 you chose.
Yeah, we did. So we were thinking, we weren't trying to create a category like, oh, you could use salt on every cocktail. We knew it was going to be in the tequila category, obviously with some mezcal cocktails. Then we were taking a look at the cocktails that are out there, because not every tequila cocktail, like a Naked and Famous, which is actually a mezcal cocktail, warrants a salted rim. So we're saying, is the market big enough for the salts? We thought that there was. Then we wanted to say, okay, you can just, use regular salt and you're done with your margarita. Well, let's up it a little bit. And we looked at different sources, and that's how we came up with, looking at that zesty lime and the chili lime. And we just tested it on cocktails, and it's like, wow, it really makes a difference in the drink. One little tip for whoever's watching or listening: if you're going to salt the rim of your cocktail glass, just salt half of it. The reason being, if you don't want the salt, you could drink it from the other side. Or if you want a little bit of salt, you could go halfway. Yeah. That's another sign, if you can see it, you've got a good bartender at the bar that you're sitting at. They salt half the rim. That's how we came up with the salted rims, the rim salts. Just seeing if there was a need for it. We're getting some good feedback from it too. But again, that NA category, it was something I never thought about until we started reaching out to people.
Great idea. And that whole category is grown leaps and bounds.
Oh, I know.
And you need stuff for those cocktails just as much as you need them for anything else, right?
Absolutely.
For alcohol cocktails.
Yeah, and there's mortar stores showing up. There's one in Manhattan, I think, called Spirited Away. Great retailer, and it's all NA product. Yeah. Something I wouldn't have expected, like 3 years ago. It's like, I could maybe they'll sell it online, but you take a look in, like your Total Wines, and now that section is just growing.
Do you have friends in the bar business? People that own bars, bartenders?
We got a few. When I had my agency, one of our clients was William Grant, and we used to work with the distributors Fedway and Allied. So I've got more connections on the distributor side, but from a marketing perspective, the marketing part I think I've got down. It's working from the product side. So we do have some connections there.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. So I guess my question was going to lead to, do you have any bartenders been using this, or not just not home cocktail makers, but professional bartenders?
Yeah, we have a couple that we've been sending samples out to and getting it in their hand. The one thing I realized, some of the bars that move, a lot of clientele through the bar fast, the dropper bottles may be an issue. So we may have to go to, the swoozy bottle, just something that's faster. Yeah, so you have to think about, okay, now you have additional costs for, packaging and labeling, and it becomes a whole nother animal to it. One thing, we just try to be very mindful of maintaining our margins and not doing things on the whim. I try to keep things planned out. Pivoting is one thing, but maybe I'll go try this, maybe I'll go try that. I need to make sure that what we're doing that we think makes sense pans out. Or if it doesn't, then we'll pivot. But we need to get things, some more time.
Yeah, and I can see that visually at the bar, the dropper works, but away from the bar, I got to make these cocktails quickly.
Right.
And no one's going to appreciate the dropper. They want their cocktail. So it's got to be a little quicker. So I can see that. Yeah. You'd mentioned before about different flavors and profiles and things. Are you looking at rim sugars next?
Ooh.
Root beer flavors or chocolate flavors or harvest flavor for the falls or
I thought about that, but I guess it's more of a personal thing. I don't tend to lean towards those cocktails that are rimmed with sugar. So right now I'm going to stick with the cocktails that I could see myself ordering or could see myself making for friends and family. And once we pick up traction, then maybe that's something I would take a look at. Ideally, I would love to do shrubs. I think that's an interesting place. But now you're talking about a bottled beverage. So that's completely different than what we're doing here.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Now, the one thing at this time of year, there's a lot of beers that they actually rim the glasses for.
Yeah.
For pumpkin beers and seasonal beers and things like that, they'll actually rim the glass. And it's always some sort of savory or sweet flavor as opposed to a salt. So I just didn't know if that was something you were looking towards.
Yeah, it's something
down the road. Again, down the road. You can't. You got to get up and running before you can't make everything all at once, right?
Right, and this is such a niche category as it is. I don't know if you're familiar with Southern Teague. He's in the hospitality industry, and he has a bar. He has a handful of bars. One is called Amoria Margo in Brooklyn, and he is like the king of bitters. And I've had some conversations with him. And I remember on a podcast, he once said, "Why would you go into a business where you're selling your product dash by dash?" And it sticks in my head. It's like,
down by the gallon.
Maybe you're right. Yeah, so we're pretty niche as it is right now. But again, we'll see how it goes. It's early. It's only been a couple of months, and so far so good.
That's great. You would not see any of these products, none of these products, in the Trees Lounge.
No,
not at all. This is not that kind of bar.
Not at
They're
all.
just calling up shots of wild turkey. No.
If you can find, if somebody could find the ancient bottle of Angostura bitters, you might be able to get an old fashioned. Maybe you might. You probably just maybe get a little bit of a sugar pack and some whatever the bottom barrel bourbon is that they've got there. Pretend there's bitters in there, right? Any last thoughts on the movie from anybody?
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, Mike.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
you love this one.
First go around, I think Buscemi has he set the tone. He did. He set the tone. The tone of the movie is just sad, but it's kept through the whole movie, and stylistically, like I said, it's a very picturesque, slice of life. This is basically the 90s, I guess, in their neighborhood. This is what it looked like, and it's an Americana kind of thing. Like it could be in any town, it could be anywhere. It's not specifically to New York or Philly or LA or somewhere. It could be anywhere, and I think the acting in it is tremendous. The woman that plays Carmela's mother, her name is Suzanne Shepard. She is tremendous as like the crazy lady at the end of the bar.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And the guy next to her, his name is Rocket's Red Glare. I'm going to guess he changed his name to Rocket's Red Glare. He plays Stan, and it's got to be the single greatest name for anybody in a movie.
Is that some sort of talking about his glasses? Is that
Yeah.
He's just. I didn't know this about Buscemi, but Buscemi and the guy that plays Mike were stand-up comics together. Oh. And that guy Stan was a stand-up comic with them, which is why he's one of their friends. So if you're going to go to work, you work with your friends. So He's in the movie with them. They're so great together. Just the two of them, just sitting talking about his glasses, whether they look good or they don't look good, and it's a really well-made movie. For a first effort, is make more.
I think he's setting the tone is really, really accurate about Buscemi because he looks like the theme of the movie.
Yeah.
Right. His face, his teeth, his whole persona in 1996 Steve Buscemi is this kind of environment, this kind of look. He really does. He's the face, literally the face of the movie. I love the whole ice cream truck thing. I don't know why. That's Americana too, right?
The only hero in the movie was Uncle Al. Uncle Al's the greatest character in the movie.
He was Uncle Al was awesome. Yeah, he was great.
All the kids want Uncle Al.
Yeah, you're talking about the ice cream truck. One thing I kind of thought about afterwards, the little kid who sees Uncle Al have the heart attack and wreck the ice cream, not wreck it, but pull the rug in the ice cream truck. Even the little kid, because later on in the movie, he couldn't get his ice cream. And that was just like, it represented everybody else. Like, here's this little kid that can't get what he wants.
No, he'll be the guy. Sadly, he'll be, in 20 years, he'll be at the bar.
Right.
Wasting his life away. Yeah. Because he never could get what he wanted when he was a kid.
And he ran over his big wheel.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. It was just a smaller version, a younger version of, like Buscemi's character, Tommy is,
he can't get his car to work.
It's funny when, is it Danny? Who's it? Which Baldwin is this?
Danny.
Daniel.
Does he have issues later in life? I can't remember which Baldwin.
Yeah, he does.
And it's kind of reflecting on life.
I think they all do.
I think it's just the Baldwin. It's growing up in Massapequa. That'll do it to you, I guess.
Right. He just goes off on like what the truck and everything else.
Well, so Uncle Al was is this actor Seymour Cassell.
Yeah, he's great.
And I think he was in a lot of what's that guy? John Cassavetes movies.
Yep.
And he's also in a couple Wes Anderson movies.
Yep.
'Cause
he's in
Rushmore.
Again, you work, you figure your niche.
Stay in that
You're a
niche.
character S guy, and
Yeah.
you work with these large production groups to be like, I'm your guy. Just keep calling me every time you make something. I don't care what it is. I'll keep doing it.
You know, Terry Garr, who passed away yesterday.
Did she?
Yeah, it's really sad. 79.
Jeez.
She got herself in to these little niche groups, right? And was in with all of. She was in. She worked with so many amazing directors.
Oh yeah.
Coppola, right? Everyone.
Scorsese. She's with all these
Scorsese.
guys.
Yeah.
Mel Brooks.
Totally. Mel Brooks. She got herself into this little world, and maybe she wanted to be something else, acting wise, but she hung in there, and she was everywhere with these. She worked with great people, really great people, and that's like these people too. You get in like Buscemi, and you're in the universe of Scorsese or the HBO world, and you got a gig for life, pretty much, right? All right, Gene, any last thoughts on the movie?
The only last thought I had, and again, I picked up on this doing a little bit of reading. The end of the movie, where Buscemi's just sitting there, when they said that when David Chase had seen that may have had some influence to the last scene of The Sopranos. I don't know. Buscemi's sitting there for a good minute or so.
I love that.
Pondering, or maybe just come to some resolution, like this is what it's about. The other guy was in the hospital, and this is my life. And that's, who knows, you make up your own conclusion what he was thinking. And they said that Chase may have taken some of that for the very last scene of The Sopranos. I don't know.
That's
Makes
amazing. That's really good. I love how that kind of comes full circle with him.
Yeah.
And all these Soprano adjacent and not adjacent folks in the movie.
And Buscemi directed, which episode was it? It was Pine Barrens.
Right.
Yeah.
Was his episode, which they say goes down as one of the best episodes of The Sopranos ever. And it was really tremendous.
He loses his shoe, right? Is that what happens?
Yeah. Paulie lost his shoe.
Loses his shoe in the snow, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It's really interesting to think where this movie takes Buscemi and where all the tentacles of this. It's a little movie from 1996. It's like I said, it's almost a student film, yet it has this weird connection, possibly to one of the greatest, arguably the greatest TV show ever made, in a weird way.
I feel like he just just came. He was writing a script, and he's like, "Who am I going to get in this? Oh, let me get my phone book." I just called everybody he knew.
Yeah,
I said, "Hey, what are you doing tomorrow?" They shot it in 24 days,
and he didn't have a budget, so he was friendly with all those other actors.
And they probably did it for nothing.
So they just said yes, and that's why he said he knew most of the people, because he needed not favorites, because they weren't big stars back then, but they were actors in in a lot of films. So
it's just it's not great. It's interesting, yet it's got this interesting backstory to it, or is it a backstory? Future story to it, connecting so many different elements in TV and movie. It's really cool.
I think you'd like it better. I think I'd like it better on the second rewatch. Too.
I was thinking the same thing as we were talking about this. I think I need to rewatch it.
Yeah,
I think
nice thing is it's on Prime, so you might as well take advantage of it.
Yeah, that's right. So, yep. Speaking of television and movies, so were you really a big fan of Bewitched?
Yeah,
I was.
Yeah, I watched it when I was a kid.
I loved it. Would you like first Darren or second Darren?
Oh, that's a good question.
That's the ultimate question.
Yeah, I like the first one. I think just because they gravitated towards it at the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, I just thought his job was so cool. And it's funny because if you go and take a look at McMann Tate, someone had an ad agency named that, and I think they're in Michigan. I don't know if they're in business any longer. But if you go and do a little bit of a search, you could find out the fake clients that McMann Tate had. There's a whole
really
products that they supposedly supported.
That is
there's a whole backstory. But I just named it that to kind of, like I said, going full circle. I don't really, have reference Bewitched and anything. It's more, stories for, people like us our age that have an idea what it's about.
Yeah.
I also checked the intellectual property to make sure I was okay.
I wondered about that too.
I think I asked you that one of the emails
from like day one.
Larry Tate. What was McMahon's first name?
Oh,
He's never in the show, is he?
He actually was in like 1 or 2 episodes.
I think you've seen once or twice.
Yeah, I forget his name now. Yeah, I know it was Larry Tate.
I haven't watched that show in decades.
The kids watched Wizards of Waverly Place growing up, and the principal, as a comic aside, his last name was Larry Tate.
Oh, that's really
He was
funny.
Principal Larry Tate. His name wasn't Larry Tate. His last name was Larry Tate. And you're like,
I believe
the kids didn't get it, but all the parents went, I know who that is.
I believe that show's making a comeback.
It is.
Well,
Gomez.
yes. With
It's
Selena
always new.
Gomez. She's a executive producer now that she's
Really?
hot. She's a hot actress right now. So I think she actually is in the couple episodes of it, but she's they're bringing it back because she's so popular. Little baseball update. It is 5-5.
I see it. I have it on right now.
It's crazy. Yes, crazy. Well, Gene, we cannot thank you enough for coming on. This is a really fascinating story, and a really great product line. I think these are awesome.
Totally.
Well,
Yeah.
listen, I appreciate all of you. You know, Angela, you accepted my email out of the blue and said, "Hey, can I send you some product?"
There's no out of the blue. You put the email. I respond to all
It
my
was
emails.
great.
No, it was great. You guys were phenomenal. You know, you did the 4 little vignettes, and they were great. And this was fun. It was I was really looking forward to this for a while. So I appreciate it.
No, I'm excited about trying the other two. I'm not a coffee person at all. I despise coffee, but I'm interested in trying that and in an old fashioned probably. They're really good.
appreciate
And I may be buying that tiki cocktail, the tiki bitters, because it's hard to find a good one. My wife and I are tiki cocktail folks,
Oh, okay.
and it's hard to find good ones that really kind of, like you said, balance a cocktail well. And there aren't a lot of good ones out there. So
Yeah, I think there's I remember. I think it's pretty much cinnamon forward. I think a little cardamom, if I remember correctly. But I've got folks, that are again in the tiki culture world, and they've been using them. They said, "Oh, these are they're pretty good." So.
Yeah, really good. We have been talking to Gene Cooper from McMann Tate Cocktail Company. We've been running through a couple of his line of bitters, which you can get online at McMannandTate.com. Is that
McMann Tate Cocktail Company.com.
Got it. Okay.
Try to
You
make
can
it
get
as
all
long
that
as
stuff on
possible.
there.
Yeah.
A lot of typing. Just save it, then you won't bookmark it.
Exactly.
And you can get also salts and also dried garnishes as well. So check
your
it out.
cocktail game with McMann and Tate.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
There you
Make
go.
teacher.
That's
That's good.
we got the advertising guy.
That's right.
We gotta,
I
Don't
really
side
some
line.
experience, and try to use something I learned. Yeah.
There you go.
I need a side hustle. So
It's a good side hustle. It's a fun side hustle. I bet.
Yeah.
that's right.
So this is going to be out on a podcast probably next week, and you can download it wherever you get your podcasts. This has been What We Watch When We Drink, episode 56, the Booze, Dancing, and Entertainment Network. We are been very excited to talk cocktails and bitters and all things cocktail related with Gene here, as well as Trees Lounge from Steve Buscemi from 1996, which sort of weirdly has a connection to all of us because we like The Sopranos. Gene, thank you very much. Thanks for coming on, and we wish you a lot of luck with this new venture of yours. And I can only imagine how wonderful your house smells, your kitchen. Thanks again, and stick around. Don't go anywhere. We're going to run the credits, and we'll chat on the other side.
Great. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks,
Cheers,
Gene.
cheers, folks. Let's see how this works.